BNC, America's Black News Channel. Watch 15 minutes. Share with everyone. Finally, news that speaks to us.
And just as mask mandates end in states across the country, cases of COVID, well, they seem to be trending upward in places around the world. This time, it's that subvariant I told you about, BA2. Here to talk more about that, we have Dr. James Simmons. He is an acute care nurse practitioner. Dr. Simmons, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to BNC Live, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about this particular version of the Omicron variant, right? How is it different from the previous one, and should we be concerned?
You know, I guess it's most important to kind of start off and say there is, just like during this entire pandemic, so much that we just don't know, even though we know so much more than we have in the past. So BA2, it's kind of like the buzzword that everyone's talking about now because it is causing spikes in cases and hospitalizations in different parts of the world, like you mentioned. BA2 is different than BA1, which is what we all refer to as Omicron, as there are 8 or 9, give or take, mutations that make BA2 a subvariant of that, a little bit different than BA1. It may be as much as 30% more transmissible than BA1, the original Omicron variant, that caused a lot of problems globally, but as well here in the United States. So they are definitely different variants, and we are trending towards BA2 being the dominant variant here in the United States as well as other parts of the globe.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned that there's a lot we don't know. What do we know about this particular variant or subvariant?
You know, I think what we do know, just in general, I'm going to broaden our picture here a little bit and take us up maybe 10,000 feet. I think what we do know is that this virus, regardless of variant, regardless of the name that we give it, always throws us for a loop. I think we have to always expect the unexpected. What we do know about BA2, like I said, is that it's probably 30% more transmissible than the original Omicron variant, which was much more transmissible than previous variants as well, Alpha and Delta. I think the other thing that we're seeing is that good vaccines, good masks, and I can explain that, hold up well against BA2 as we can see. But there are places like different countries in Europe which had relaxed some of their masking mandates and some of their restrictions, but also had an incredibly highly vaccinated population that are still seeing spikes in this.
So that
what we haven't seen necessarily in those.
Dr. Simmons, I hate to cut you off, but we are running out of time. I want to squeeze one last question in with you. That brings me actually to my next question, right? The crisis that's happening in Ukraine. Could we get into a situation where another variant, right, is created where the vaccine it doesn't provide enough protection? Should we be concerned about that?
We could get into that scenario, absolutely. Yeah, and my apologies for that. We could get into that scenario, sure. You know, what we don't know out of the Ukraine right now, though, is because of everything going on, they're not reporting case numbers. Obviously, they have different priorities right now. But what we see in sort of any refugee situation, any situation where there are mass amounts of people together, we see upticks in lots of different communicable diseases. There's no reason to expect why COVID would not be one of those. I think it's really important for folks to take a look at, and just like I said, in a broader picture of things, every time that we see increases of cases in other parts of the world, it follows here in the United States. I think we would be unwise to assume that it won't happen here, even though we've relaxed restrictions, even though that, we're taking our masks off now, on federal transportation, all of those different things. I think it would behoove us to not assume that it's not coming our way. And those spikes in cases and those mutations that could avoid protection from the vaccine or natural immunity could really come from anywhere on the globe.
All right, Dr. Simmons, we appreciate your expertise. More importantly, your time, sir. Have a good weekend.